This is how to fundraise your first $100,000. So if you're new to fundraising, we actually have a multi-hour course called How to Raise Your First $100,000. But today we're gonna distill that 4-5 hours of content into a much shorter video so that you can get the basics and get started at zero cost. We're gonna follow the same outline and modules and basic information that our 5-hour course has. We're just not gonna go as much in depth so that it's short enough to be a YouTube video. If you'd like to check out the full course, we'll certainly have that linked, but you should be able to get most of what you need to get started just from watching this video. All right, let's get started. So this fundraising course that takes you from a total beginner all the way to raising your first $100,000 is broken into 4 key modules. Module number 1 is everything that you do before you start. So this is the before you start fundraising checklist. First thing is your legal checklist. Number 1 is, are you incorporated? And do you have an employer identification number? This is essentially your social security number for your business, but you have to have a business. This part doesn't take very long. If you want details, it's in the course. You can also look it up online for free. It takes 48 hours to do this much, but you have to have some sort of an incorporation that you file legally, costs a couple $100, and you get issued an EIN just like a person would have a social security number. So make sure you check that box. The next is federal and state tax exemption status. We want to make sure that if we're collecting donations that we are in fact tax exempt on our end and can actually facilitate the legal way to bring in charitable donations and report those to the IRS. Number 3, some states require fundraising registration. We want to make sure that we're compliant depending on our state. You can look up to see if your state applies to this. Number 4, any business licenses needed. And then number 5, games of chance, auctions. Planning on doing anything like this, you do have to register with the state as well. So as long as you've checked most of these boxes, you're in a place to go on to the next step. But just to cover these things before you even begin. In addition to the legal stuff, you have to have some policies in place. Now, there are free versions of this online. You can definitely access these and kind of customize them, make your own, but it's really helpful to have these policies as part of your kind of founding documents. Here's what you need. First is a conflict of interest form, pretty self-explanatory. You need to also have a whistleblower form, a system for document retention, what you're going to keep on record, keep on file, hopefully some sort of an online system to keep backups of that as well. The biggest one for fundraising is obviously a gift acceptance policy. This is what you will and won't accept for gifts. For example, you will accept a land gift, but you won't accept art. Or you're allowed to take from people's estate, people can give through their will, but you don't accept certain kind of business donations. Whatever your gift acceptance policy is, again, you can find these online. They're super easy to customize for free, but you do need to have something in place. So if your donor says, hey, I want to give you this thing and I want to get a tax deduction, instead of you having to decide on the spot whether you feel comfortable accepting that thing that's a non-cash or not, you just say, well, our gift acceptance policy says this. Sorry, my hands are tied. So it just kind of protects you as the charity. And then of course, if you have a joint venture, if you need a joint venture with another for-profit organization, you have some sort of a relationship, that might apply to you too. Not to everybody, but just check that box if you need it. The next thing is to understand a little bit about the language that nonprofits use or that fundraisers use and what they mean. So we're gonna go through these just quick definition, glossary of words, and kind of explain what we refer to when we say each of these things. Now, it might be a little bit different organization to organization or region to region, but these are just kind of the general accepted universal definitions for each of this. The first and obvious one, philanthropy. This is kind of the all-encompassing term. This is all of the things that we do in terms of our advancement for money and sending stuff to donors and thanking donors and recognizing donors, and it's all of the pieces all together. It's the blanket term that covers every single piece. The root of the word comes from philo, meaning love, and anthropy, meaning like people or humanity. So like a love of humanity is what it literally translates to, but it just talks about the giving process as a whole, the entire blanket term that encompasses literally everything. Another term that's sometimes interchangeable is development. Now, development can be a for-profit term as well, obviously, but in a nonprofit context, it refers to the process of going and forming relationships with donors and asking for money. It's kind of the more niche, like you and the donor themselves interfacing in some way. So it doesn't cover all the additional pieces that philanthropy covers, which is like has to do with culture and the attitude of the organization towards the community. Development is specifically you as the fundraising person interfacing with your donors. Or what we call the process that nonprofits go through to develop philanthropically is development. It's the moving forward of philanthropy. Next piece, Also used often interchangeably, which is fundraising. This is the specific getting of the money. So this kind of narrows the focus even further, saying this is literally just driving dollars in, bringing dollars in. Not all of philanthropy is fundraising, not all of development is fundraising, but fundraising certainly is development and fundraising certainly is philanthropy. So this is just the getting the dollars in the door part. And one more kind of side term that you might hear sometimes is advancement. This is often used in organizations that have alumni, like colleges often use advancement interchangeably with philanthropy or development, but it kind of means that same thing. It's just the act of going and getting additional funding from your alumni pool or from your constituency to then advance the mission or increase what you're able to do with your organization. Kind of an offshoot term there. It'll also be important to know terms like restricted gift versus unrestricted gift. That refers to the idea that donors designate their gift towards something very specific within our mission. Unrestricted is just they give the gift outright and the organization gets to decide how to use it. We also have terms like annual fund, which can mean a lot of different things, but it typically refers to the amount of money that the organization kind of raises every single year to fund the ongoing operations. Often it's supported by direct mail or online fundraising. It's kind of the one-to-many version of fundraising. On the other side of that is major gifts, which often is the one-on-one sit down, ask for a big gift type fundraising. Major gifts is what we feel probably the most important piece of a fundraising program because it's by far the biggest chunk of the pie. 90+% of the money given away in the US comes from major gifts from individuals, so we really put a heavy emphasis on pipelining for those. That's major gifts. Sometimes called signature gifts because people can put their name on things. They name a library, they can put their signature on it in that way, and that's a major gift, obviously. Another easy term, prospects. These are donors before they're donors. These are people you hope to approach or plan to approach for a gift. Grants are funding by institutions, so sometimes foundations will have grants, sometimes institutions will have grants, sometimes businesses will have grants, but you typically have to apply for these, sometimes in a written fashion. It's decided by a group of people, and that funding typically has some sort of back-end reporting, so even after you get the money, you have to talk about how you're spending it and give regular updates to that institution about where the money goes. We also sometimes will talk about planned gifts. All that means is any gifts coming through an estate. So life insurance, bequests, if someone passes away and leaves money in their will to charity, this is a planned gift. These are very large gifts in comparison typically, but we have to often wait a very long time because we don't want people to pass away and give money. We want them to stay with us and give while they're alive, obviously, but people do give to their estate, and that is one additional avenue for funding. Last couple terms here, gift in kind. Gift in kind is a non-cash gift. So I'm not just giving the organization money, I might donate food to a food drive, or I might donate a space to host an event. Anything that's non-cash can be considered a donation and be tax deductible as a gift in kind. And last is sponsorship. Sponsorship is usually done with a business because they get something in exchange, some sort of marketing or branding as a result, like I'm going to sponsor a gala and they're going to put my logo all over stuff and give me a moment to speak and talk about that. So I get a little bit of an exchange there. It's not just an altruistic gift. It helps incentivize businesses sometimes to give, to be able to sponsor things. That's what we mean when we talk about sponsorship. All right, so now that we've covered some of these blanket terms, just so in case we go over these and you're confused about what they mean, that's what we mean. The next piece is the donor cycle. This is the process through which we identify and pull people through for gifts. Here's what that looks like. So imagine this is one big circle. Here, we're going to identify donors. After we identify who we might approach for a gift, we will qualify them, which is after we've identified them, maybe we do some research on them, maybe we talk to them directly to see if they're a good candidate to potentially give a gift to our organization. After that, move them on to cultivate them. This is kind of the dating before you marry piece. So we're gonna send them information, we're gonna learn information from them and kind of go back and forth on how much should we ask for? What type of projects do they want to fund? Are they open to hearing a proposal for a gift? So after we've kind of decided on our end, yes, in the qualification stage, this is something they can do, then we'll move them to the cultivation stage where we say, okay, we're going to actively work towards making an ask, which of course the next step is solicitation. So we're going to solicit or ask them. This is the actual saying of the words or requesting the gift from them. And then after soliciting them, we want to do stewardship. So we want to be good stewards of the giving. So that means we're sharing information, we're saying thank you, we're recognizing them in the community so that we can put them back into the cycle and identify from the donors that we're stewarding who we can qualify for the next gift. And hopefully these aren't linear. We think about like, oh, we move people along this continuum from like people who have not given to people who have given. Instead, we want to move them in this circle. So once we've we've been stewarded, then we kind of identify a new group and we kind of keep them giving. Ideally, once we acquire a donor, we want them to continually give to us forever. We want them to give usually kind of in 3 ways. First is something annually every year, so they just support us no matter what, at least in some small amount. They should give, hopefully, a little bit extra if we have a campaign or a big project we're trying to fund. And then ideally, after that, we try to get to be in their estate. So upon their passing, we get some portion of their estate as well. Obviously, not going to hit those 3 boxes with every donor, but that's of course our goal, is to kind of move people through this cycle continuously. Now, when people first start fundraising, they try to pick the things that are the lowest friction, the easiest things to do. Okay, how do we raise money? Well, I can send people something in the mail. I can post on Facebook. I can start a GoFundMe. I can have an event where people buy tickets. I can do a percentage night. I could sell candles or mattresses. None of these things are necessarily the best way to do it. I'm just going to show you, just based on some dollar figures that we have, some of the best to worst fundraising ideas, and just point out that people tend to gravitate toward the worst ones. And you don't have to be like that. You can choose the best ones. So here's what it looks like. At the very bottom, or what we're going to say in this case at the top of the bad list is fundraising events. This is galas, golf tournaments, 5Ks. We're throwing a party, we're selling tickets, we're having sponsors. On average, not perfectly, it costs about 50 cents to raise $1. So for every $1 we raise, we have to spend 50 cents of it just to make the event happen. And that's if you have it optimized. That's if you do a great job and you're experienced at it. Probably when you're first starting out, it's going to be even worse than 50 cents on the dollar. Events are so hard, but people see that as the easiest way to fundraise because they're like, I don't know how to talk to people, but I can sell tickets to an event. People want to come to, I don't know, see a concert, a benefit concert or something. It just feels like it's low friction and an easy way to start. So lots of charities do it. You're like, well, I've seen charities put on these events all the time. They raise all this money. It's like, yes, but it's just the slowest and hardest way. Take nothing else away from this Fundraising 101 intro course here. Events bad. Events bad. Very, very clear. Another common way is direct mail. This could either be through email or sending out letters to people. I'm sure you've probably gotten some of these in the mail where a charity's like, hey, support your local fire department, support the local animal shelter, support something. You're gonna get something in the mail. It's gonna have a return envelope and like some boxes to check of like $25, $50. You can include a check, you can include cash, or you can even go onto the website many times and put in your credit card to give. Most charities have some version of this. It's not wrong to do this, but on average, it's gonna cost around 20 cents to raise $1. But that is if they've given before. If you're mailing to existing donors who have already supported your organization, it's going to cost roughly 20 cents to raise $1. If they've never given before, it's more. It's sometimes $1, and even $1.50 is what it costs to raise $1. Not only are you breaking even in the first year, sometimes you're negative money in direct mail. Now, once you've acquired them, then you can send them mail every year and get 20 cents on the dollar, which is why a lot of charities do it, and that's fine. But this startup cost, so expensive. It costs $1 or $1.50 just to get that first $1 back, and then the next year, a year later, you can start making money. A fine way to do it, maybe you incorporate it slowly over the course of building your program up. Just don't start that way. The next is corporations or foundations. People say, oh, the businesses, they have so much money. They have all this money. I can see how much money they're always making. We should go talk to all the businesses in town because that's where we're gonna get money first. Or there's foundations whose entire design is to give away monies to charities just like us. And that's a fine way to raise money. It's not the easiest, but also still cost 20, sometimes 25 cents to raise $1. So a lot of charities do a great job here. They really focus in this area when they're first starting out, and it's 20 to 25 cents to raise $1. That's if you have a full-time person to do that. Not a bad way to raise money, a good part of the program, but I just think we could just do a little bit better. And that is the final piece, of course, which is individual giving at the major gifts level. And major gifts only cost you about 5 cents to raise $1. The ROI is a 20x on your time. You're gonna multiply that money by 20. So why don't people just do major gifts? Well, first of all, I don't know. I feel like everyone should just do major gifts. I do know. The real reason people don't do major gifts is because it's scary and it's hard and they don't know how. They're like, I'll do anything. Don't make me go sit down with someone and ask them for money directly. I don't know who to ask. I don't know what to say. So this is the training piece. And if you have been following us long enough, we have a lot of videos on this. And we have a lot of trainings on this. So you can click through our YouTube video library and get some information on how to do this piece well. But major gifts, man, there's just nothing close to that 5 cents on the dollar, the 20x ROI that you get from spending your time on major gifts. So again, not to say that events are gonna lose money, direct mail is gonna lose money, at least not eventually. doing grants and applying for grants for foundations and going to corporations for money, you're gonna get money. But if you have limited time to fundraise, if you just spent it all on major gifts as a place to start, you're gonna be way further ahead. As your program grows, you should probably work on building out all of these channels for acquisition, if nothing else. Sometimes people who give to you through the mail eventually become major gift donors, or some of your prospects for some of these. Sometimes your major gift donors might have their own foundation, or might run a company, or know somebody who runs a company. So they all kind of feed each other. We shouldn't not do them, but just as a place to start, as a place to focus, even after we do start, it's all about those major gifts. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. Okay, that was module 1. Modules 2, 3, and 4 are gonna go a lot faster. There's just a lot of setup. When you're doing all this for the very first time, we just had to get all that information in there. So we're gonna go pretty quickly in comparison to these next 3 steps. So module 2 is all of the work you have to do before getting the money. So this was after all of the prep and the setup, but there are some things to do before you can actually go out and make asks and raise that first $100,000. Here are the big categories. First is what's called a case for support. And it's a lot what it sounds like. It is the reason someone would want to support you. You're making your case as to why someone should give you money, and you want to put this in writing. Maybe you sit down with your founders and brainstorm about it. Maybe your case for support changes as your priorities and your projects change, but you need to talk about your case as to why someone should give you money. There's 3 key pieces of information for a case for support. 1 is the status quo. Where are we at right now? What's happening? 2 is the solution, how we plan to fix the problem. And then 3 is the new future we imagine. So status quo, for example, let's say you're a humane society and you don't have enough kennels for all the dogs that you are trying to take in. The solution is to build out another room and buy more kennels and hire 1 more staff person. That's gonna cost $300,000 or whatever it might cost. So if we raise 300K, we have the solution. The new future that we imagine is that we'll have kennels for every single dog that exists. So our case for support is not only have we identified the problem, but we've identified the solution and we can implement it. We know how to fix this. We just need the money. When you're asking for money, you're not competing with people who either give or don't give. People who are philanthropic tend to give all the time to all kinds of causes. So what you're actually competing with are other causes, other people, other nonprofits. So you have to say your case for support is more compelling than theirs, at least in the acute, at least in this particular month. The thing that we need is one of the most important things. So everyone's kind of shouting and trying to get attention from all these funders, but if our case for support is the strongest, it should speak for itself. So that's the first thing. Build your case for support. Number 2 is to identify prospects. These are, who are you going to go ask for money? Who could you go ask for money? You're like, I have no idea. Well, here's how you start. Large businesses in your area, regional foundations in your area, donor lists from other nonprofits, other charities. Often people, when they give money, they're put on recognition lists of here are the people who gave it 10,000, here are the people who gave it 25, 100,000. All those donors get listed. You can actually Google the phrase annual report and the name of the charity, and most of them are posted as PDFs on Google. You can just find this information for free. Who in your area tends to give to a lot of different causes? Do you have access to them? Now, these are kind of your tertiary, kind of your big buckets of where can I find people. Where I like to start, before even doing any of this, which is kind of your ongoing pipeline, is who do you know and who do they know? You start with your own network. Within your own network, who might want to give, even if a small amount, to your organization? And if you're able to get someone to give, or maybe it's someone who serves on your board, who do they know that you might want to give? The number one reason someone gives money anywhere is who asks, so we try to start with 1 degree of separation. So you start with who do you know? You can do this exercise with your board, with your leadership team, and you go 1 more degree of separation past that. Who do they know that we can sit down with? So again, doesn't matter if someone has a lot of money. If you can't get in front of them, they're not a good prospect. So people, when we work with clients all the time, they're like, oh, you know, Steph Curry's from our hometown. He has a lot of money. He seems to do pretty well in the NBA. I'm sure he's making a lot of money. We should ask him for money. I'm like, great, anybody know Steph? Everyone's like, no. It's like, okay, then he's not a prospect. Doesn't matter if he has a lot of money and he's from here. If we can't get to them, they're not a good starting prospect. Maybe we can work on it eventually, but for the most part, it's who do you know, who's within your immediate network that you can go ask for money, and then who do they know, who's 1 degree of separation outside of their immediate network. Easy way to start on this, go to your board, ask them for prospects, and then rate those prospects on 3 criteria: inclination, ability, and access. Inclination is how likely they are to give to you. Ability is their perceived wealth or how much they could give. And access is how fast you can get to them. So you score them out of 10 for each of these, and then you add up everybody, and the ones with the highest scores, those are the ones that you can plan to ask first. So you're gonna work on building your prospect list internally. You can go to your board and work on your prospect list, and then have them rate inclination, ability, and access out of 10 for each person that you have. Not that you say you can't go to all these people eventually, but you gotta go to somebody first. So this is how you prioritize it. This is how you find people that you could start asking for money, you could start fundraising with. All right, module number 3 is making the ask. Module number 1 was like all the prep and like building the foundation. Module 2 was getting ready to make the ask. We're now in module 3, which is how to make the ask itself and actually going out and doing the fundraising part. This is the most important part, obviously. The biggest lever that you can pull by far is individual giving. Before you set up a fundraising event, before you set up an auction, before you go Facebook, before you set up a GoFundMe, don't do any of that until you've gone through and tried your existing network and the existing network of your board for individual giving. Who do you know who can give a gift? This is by far the biggest chunk of money given away in the US. It's also the easiest path to money. You can get to these asks quickly and they can make decisions quickly. So there's nothing close. Again, this is kind of goes to major gifts, but smaller gifts as well. If you want to start small, you really want to focus on individual giving. Who would you go to first? If you're like, I know I'm supposed to do my inclination, ability, and access rating, and I want to figure out my prospect list. First and easiest box to check is, of course, your board. Not every single member of your board has to be a fundraiser, though it's nice if they can help, make some connections for you. That's really key for them. But every single member of your board needs to give a meaningful gift. Now, I would avoid as much as you can, this is an easy mistake to make, putting a dollar amount in your bylaws. Like every board has to give $1,500, or every board is responsible for $10,000 in fundraising. What that's going to do is it's going to make some people uncomfortable and quit, or just be uncomfortable and worse, do nothing and not quit and take up a seat, or it's going to severely undervalue some people who can give more. If you say $1,500 is the minimum giving every single year, some people are going to have to really stretch to hit that $1,500 mark, and you're going to be pushing them outside of what they would typically give comfortably, and they're going to rotate off because they can't afford it. And some people who could give $10,000 a year will still just give $1,500. So you're both leaving money on the table and leaving talent on the table by forcing a number. So instead, here's the phrase that we use. Every board member should give a meaningful gift every year, or be paying on a meaningful pledge. So what you say is, hey, we have an expectation that 100% of our board gives. That is absolutely key. And I'll be following up with each of you privately, one-on-one, about your own giving. If you want to know more about this process, we have a whole video that outlines and details board giving. So go ahead and use the search function on our video library and you can see exactly how to do this. But board giving, meaningful gift. Everyone is required to give a meaningful gift. Why is this important? Because outside of being able to just get some cash from your board, which is great, we want revenue, but it is the checkbox. It is the endorsement of the board for your organization, for your project. Say you go out and you approach a donor and the donor asks you, hey, how much of your board is giving? Well, pretty good. We got 65% of our board. And then the donor says, well, if 35% of your board doesn't even believe in this project, why would I? And there's not a good answer to that. So you want to say, well, okay, I want the answer to be, of course, all of our board is giving. Moreover, there are certain foundations and grant-making organizations that won't even look at you unless you have 100% board participation. Others still won't let you apply unless the board gives a certain amount every year. The board has to give $25,000 as a board before you can apply for their grant. So this is less about the money and more about what it unlocks for you on the other side of board giving. So if you've not gotten 100% giving from your board, not just, oh, everyone gave $50 or $100 there, but like significant gifts, many times multi-$1,000 gift or more if they can muster it. And they've not all been given the courtesy of a one-on-one individual ask. This is absolutely where we would recommend to start. After your board is done, you obviously want to go through their networks and start working on your prospect list again and really focus on that major gifts piece for individual giving. Always. This is kind of the cycle you want to stay in constantly before you try all the other stuff, before you send stuff in the mail, before you do a big PR campaign. Go through your own network, person to person, human to human, and get money this way first as a way of building support and then can expand out from there. It is likely that if you get your entire board to give and then you go within their network and you make asks for every single person in their network, you're probably going to hit $100,000 in most cases right off the bat. This is kind of where we think that you'll land just by doing this much. If you keep going, you can go past that, but this gets you most of the way there just by starting. If you say, well, my board isn't capable of that, it's like, okay, well then let's expand the board. Let's get more people involved. Who do they know? Who can we recruit to the board so that kind of speaks to the next cycle of growth for your nonprofit as a whole. But we really want to focus on these people who love us and cherish the mission the most as a place to start. If you're wanting to learn more about how to ask for money, we have several videos on that specifically, so I'm not going to go over that again, but you can click through our video library and find exactly how to set up the meetings, what to say during the meeting, what to say after the meeting, all the follow-up. But for today, we're going to go straight to module 4, which is all the thanking and follow-up. Of course, when you get the gift in, that's very exciting, but we're not done at that point. There are some additional steps following that gift that we need to make sure that we're focusing on. First, obviously, is gift acknowledgement. That is the tax receipt that says, hey, you gave this much to our organization, you did not receive any goods or services in exchange, and then they can get that reduction off their taxes. It allows you to kind of report and track everything. This is legally required, you have to do this. We can go a step further and make sure that there's a really heartfelt thank you, and that's not just a form that says, thank you for your gift to so-and-so, here's your tax letter. It's like, what can we do to go a little bit more custom, a little more outside the box? Can we write a handwritten note? Can we call the person? Especially when you're starting, to really nail this piece and make people feel really special for having supported you is such a key to getting started. So make sure that after the gift acknowledgement, you have that thank you, and you go from there. As we mentioned earlier, that stewardship piece, we want to make sure that we are stewarding our donors, because most people who give to an organization don't give the next year. Donor retention, so the percent of people who gave to a charity and then decided to give to that same charity again the next year, is super low. In 2025, right now, the rate's sitting at like 40 to 43%. So almost 60% of donors fire their charity every single year because they don't do a good job of stewarding. Ideally, when someone gives and supports us for the first time, we're doing the right things for them to give again and again and again every single year forever, maybe even upgrade their gifts, maybe refer us to other people. But if we just have these transactional of like, oh, we got someone and moved on, the same way that if you acquire a customer, like say if you drink Coca-Cola and you drank one Coca-Cola and it costs, I don't know, $1.20 to have that one soda, Coke probably wouldn't make a lot of money on you. But because you go and get Coke all the time, you get it at restaurants, you buy it at the grocery store, it's that repeat customer. That's where the revenue is. It's that repeat donor in our case. And we can only do that by stewardship. Stewardship is all the things that we do to thank the donor that aren't an ask. So we might send them an impact report. We might send them a handwritten card. We might share a story of a patient or someone that we've helped. But we want to be used to sending them things where we're not asking, we're giving. So we're giving, we're giving, we're giving, we're giving, and then maybe on the 7th or 8th time, then we can ask again. So they're used to hearing from us and are excited to hear from us, so that they're not dodging our call. Or every time we send something in the letter, it's not just another ask. Really focusing on that stewardship piece. All right, well, this video's already gone on kind of long, so I appreciate you sticking with me. We got as much as we could possibly pack into a short YouTube video, but if you want to get the full 5-hour version of this, it also comes with a 42-page study guide that gives you detailed text and charts and graphs with all of it. You can head over to our website and check out our online course. We are so confident that this course will help you raise $100,000 that if you purchase the course, you do everything that it says, and you don't raise $100,000, we'll give you a full refund, no questions asked. Again, it's the same kind of stuff we went over today, just in much more detail. So if you're just starting out and you need help kind of getting your program up and running, you're trying to get that first set of revenue, it might be the perfect thing you need for your jumpstart. If you need more customized help, you can head over to our website and start a conversation so that we can learn more about your nonprofit. We have lots of resources. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post every single week. What we're trying to do is build the most comprehensive fundraising education library on the entire internet. And all that we ask in exchange is that you subscribe and engage with our stuff so that more people can see it. So subscribe to the channel, comment if you have any questions, hit the like button if you got value out of this, and we'll see you in the next video.